What's up, nerds? Welcome to the first in a new little series I'm hoping to start doing, where I take certain titles that have a less than stellar rep from the general fan base and sing its praises. Today, we're looking at the multiplayer superhero flop, Gotham Knights. Back when Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League launched its final update, Gotham Knights received a modest surge of player base. This is largely due to the cataclysmic failure of Kill the Justice League. People want a better DC superhero game to play, and from what little I've seen of that game, I don't blame them. But people weren't very kind to this game either when it came out, and I think I know why. Amusingly, it shares the same root issues as Suicide Squad did, and that would be, well, the Arkham games. Before anyone gets on my case, I'm not throwing any hate to the Arkham franchise. Those games are fantastic and absolutely revolutionary. They deserve all the praise in the world that they get. But that's also part of the problem for Gotham Knights. When the game was first announced, people were extremely hopeful that it would be the next entry into the Arkham series. Remember, this was way before Arkham Shadows was ever even announced, so people were hungry for more Arkham content. The fact that all the advertisement highlighted Batman being dead only further fueled people's hopes, since Batman dies at the end of Arkham Knight, the latest game in the story at the time. Unfortunately, the second people saw Batgirl, they should have realized this isn't the case. But even when it was made clear, way too many people compared it to the Arkham games. They complained how the combat was nothing like the free flow of Arkham Knight. Stealth was nothing compared to Arkham City.
Penguin wants the bat brought in alive. There's 50 grand in it for the one who doesn't.
You may as well pay me now.
Over here! Now! I found someone! This is no good. He won't wake up.
That's it. We're screwed. What the hell are we gonna do now?
And not a single trace of Arkham Asylum's storytelling.
Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
All of this is true, but they shouldn't be black marks on the game's record. I have played the whole game from start to finish, and honestly, I think this game is a bunch of fun. I don't really understand why the game's reputation is so negative. It has some quirks, sure, but nothing I'd consider a deal breaker. So, I'm hoping to open some eyes with a fresh opinion on this game that I believe is poorly misunderstood. Starting with stealth. It's bare bones, yes. It's pretty easy to tell that they didn't prioritize stealth in the game design. But luckily, it's rarely ever mandatory, and when it is necessary, the mission is either optional, or the enemies are so spread out that you don't really have to worry about it. The only times I've ever gotten frustrated with stealth is during crimes like bomb threats and organ thefts. In each scenario, you have to be careful to not be seen by the enemy, otherwise a timer will start ticking down that basically means you failed, especially in the case of the bomb threat, where the timer is only 1 minute. But if you do it in multiplayer and have several eyes on the scene, it should never be too big of an issue. There's also combat, obviously. All 4 characters have melee and ranged attack capabilities. However, instead of the aforementioned free flow, you have momentum. After hitting the attack button, if you press the button again right after the animation ends, it'll enhance your combo string, allowing you to deal more damage. Not only that, but it also fills up a special momentum meter, which are needed to perform special moves that make you even more powerful against the criminals of Gotham. The most important part of combat is dodging. Blocking isn't an option in the game, but the momentum-based combat of this game lends itself to dodging perfectly. The dodge button overrules all other inputs and animations. no matter what you're in the middle of doing. If someone's about to brain you with a spiked bat, you can dodge out of the way and counterattack. Whatever it is that's going to hit you will have an indicator circling it. If you wait until it spikes out, then you can perform a perfect dodge, which, when followed up with a perfect attack, triggers a follow-up that does big damage and staggers the target. In the case of guns, they'll emit a bullet path before they fire so you can tell where they're going to shoot. Just remember to be careful, as sometimes these guns will move as they shoot. Ranged combat is a bit more finicky. The game has an auto-lock feature to it for your ranged weapons, but you don't have any real control over it. The character your hero is targeting will have a white lining on them. However, it's not always easy to spot in the heat of battle. Thankfully, when you need to make sure you hit a specific target, you can go into an over-the-shoulder aiming system instead. Just be careful when you do it. When it comes to traveling the map, this is another huge point of contention for the players, but this one's much more understandable to me. Gotham is huge. It's 3 major islands with a smaller one between 2 of the major islands, all of which are connected by very long bridges. Thankfully, all 4 characters have access to the grapple gun, which allows them to grab ledges from a distance, and, if the positioning is correct, lets you immediately jump into the air to grab another ledge, rinse, and repeat. Once you get the flow of it, you'll rarely have to run anywhere, though crossing the bridges this way still kinda sucks, which is probably where the bat cycle will come in. And this might be the most hated mechanic in the game. It gets more flack than the Batmobile in Arkham Knight. But, again, I kinda get where you're coming from with this one. The bat cycle is extremely easy to drive. In fact, it's too easy. Once you hop on, the game goes into a kind of tunnel vision with how it controls. However, there is a section later into the game that I won't talk about just yet, but know that it's a great test of the bat cycle's mobility. Luckily, the 4 of them have 1 extra means of traveling each. The extra movement that's obtained by progressing the knighthood quest line. These are unlocked pretty early into the game. Do it right and you'll have it unlocked after no more than 2 nights on patrol with that character. Nightwing has the flying trapeze, which is essentially a jetpack that he hangs from. Batgirl has her cape that lets her glide. Robin uses the Justice League's watchtower to warp himself short distances. And Red Hood uses Lazarus energy to create a platform to leap off of, I think. When it comes to presentation, it's safe to say Red Hood's extra momentum option is the coolest, though I personally prefer Nightwing's trapeze drone. An important thing to note is that none of these movement options are meant to replace the grapple gun. You're supposed to use them in tandem with it to maximize both movement and speed. When you do, you'll be surprised just how quickly you can cross the map. A typical night in Gotham can be broken down into 5 categories: the case, rogues gallery, opportunistic crimes, premeditated crimes, and side objectives. Side objectives are straightforward. They're extra tasks that usually can be completed passively as you play the game through other tasks. Otherwise, there'll be a variety of different time trials or collectibles to test your mastery of movement in the environment. Opportunistic crimes are indicated by a small upside-down triangle on your AR, which is how you track all manner of things in the game. There are small little groups of whatever enemy faction, with one of them being a damage sponge. You'll want to save this one for last, and once you reduce their health enough, you can grab them for interrogation. This will give you clues and unlock premeditated crimes that you can either do straight away, or will be unlocked for your next patrol. Premedicated crimes are the big missions. More often than not, you can just go in guns a-blazing, literally in Jason's case, and rush the enemy down until they stop coming. Pretty much the only exceptions are the aforementioned bomb and organ crimes. Rogues Gallery are a trinity of supervillains that you can work to take down for extra boss battles that are honestly pretty challenging. The case is the main story, but it's worth your time and effort to do the other options as well, since they're the only way to obtain crafting material to build new suits and weapons for your hero. Every suit comes in one of a number of styles, and each style can be customized in a variety of ways to help make the suit your own. And, if you don't care about any of that, you can simply apply the transmog of an already unlocked suit style and it'll be your appearance in-game. With the exception of one or two designs, all the weapons are very samey, allowing them to pair with pretty much every suit in the game, so you don't have to worry about that. Luckily, if you find a specific weapon or suit that you're particularly fond of, you can use mods to keep their stats up to par. You'll be picking up mods in the same time as you'll be picking up the crafting materials. You can fuse any 4 mods together to create stronger and more powerful mods that can be equipped onto most pieces of equipment you attain. The game marks any mod used with the corresponding character symbol, allowing you to keep track of who's using what mods and whether they're worth keeping on or replacing. As I've somewhat alluded to throughout the video, you can play as any member of the Bat family. Dick Grayson as Nightwing, Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, Tim Drake as Robin, and finally, Jason Todd as Red Hood. Each character plays a little differently, and it's worth your time to practice with each character so you can get a feel for the subtle differences between them. Nightwing is very nimble, acrobatic, and swift. With his Eskrima sticks, he barrages his targets while using gymnastic-like agility to stay out of harm's way. His darts aren't very reliable when it comes to rapid fire, but they leave gunners stunned just long enough to close the distance. His darts also have a unique trait of turning electric boxes into traps when an enemy gets too close to it, allowing for takedowns that don't risk exposure when stealth is crucial. Robin's small but quick. His bow staff gives him extra range with his combo attacks. Pulling off proper momentum combos allows him to hit multiple people as long as they're close to him. His slingshot can't be charged, but by holding the fire button in over-the-shoulder aim mode, he'll rapid fire, allowing you to pelt a single enemy or multiple people all bunched up together. His ability tree is angled around stealth, making it so he can crouch walk faster, keep his feet quiet while running, and perform inverted takedowns on enemies while at a vantage point. Batgirl is probably the most well-rounded character in terms of her skill set. Her tonfa can turn into a nunchuck that she uses for her momentum combos, and it's extremely effective. Her range option is the classic Batarang. Batgirl is able to seamlessly alternate between melee and ranged attacks in the middle of a combo string, allowing you to bash one guy's shoulder in while staggering a gunner that was about to fire without ever breaking your pace. Her skill tree focuses on hacking, making her an ideal choice for dealing with any kind of security, as she can remotely turn off security cameras and turrets for a brief time, among plenty of other incredibly useful skills, making it easier to maneuver past. Red Hood is the most unusual playstyle in the game, because his combo style is reversed to the rest of the cast. While all of them use momentum combos with their melee weapon, he builds momentum combos through firing his guns. Because of this, Red Hood's close range capabilities aren't terribly strong, but if you can aim his twin pistols correctly, you shouldn't have much in the way of issue. Though I have to admit he doesn't gel with my personal playstyle. I'd also, at this moment, like to take just a second to praise the idle conversations these guys can have at the Belfry. It shows the more casual side of their friendships and can easily bring out a chuckle.
So what do you think of Montoya? Didn't exactly get along when I was on the streets.
She was a rookie when my dad was on the force, but he took a shine to her. I think we should at least give her a chance.
Fair enough, but I'm still on the fence. I don't like Gotham cops.
Jason, you don't like anybody.
That's not true. I like that you get that.
Another thing to pay attention to is your level. The Case and Rogues Gallery missions all have recommended levels to do them, and being too low a level will make the missions a lot harder, further encouraging that you go after the premeditated crimes. For those worried about having to grind up 4 characters, don't worry. All 4 of the Knights share a single XP meter and level. If you level up while playing as Nightwing, you also level up as the others at the same time, keeping the grind from being any longer than it has to. And this is one of my favorite little things the game gives you for convenience, as it would have really sucked to have to grind each hero individually every time something happened in the story. Speaking of the story, now is when I start getting into that. If you're considering on playing the game at all, then I'd say definitely don't watch that part and skip to this time here to cut straight to my outro. Otherwise, we'll get into the details of Gotham Knights' story. I'll give you guys until the count of
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your time's up.
With that out of the way, let's get started. So, obviously the game starts with Batman dying in a confrontation against Ra's al Ghul inside the Batcave. Batman finishes the fight by starting a self-destruct, destroying the cave and killing both himself and Ra's. Nightwing and the others race onto the scene, but it's too late. Then, we watch a recording Bruce made about this very scenario. He explains that Jim Gordon's been dead for a while and now the police are as corrupt as ever, meaning we'll have to dodge them while patrolling Gotham. Not only that, but without the cave, they'll have to use a second location called the Belfry. After the funeral, the Knights discuss what their next move should be and mention Batman's last case revolved around Kirk Langstrom. And it's at this point that you get to decide who you want to play as. But don't worry, you'll get freedom to change characters pretty soon in the story. I picked Robin, as you can see, but it doesn't really matter. Almost immediately, you learn Langstrom is dead, so you investigate the cause. Here, you get to see this game's version of detective work. If you get the wrong answer enough, a prompt will show up that skips to the answer or gives you a hint. Except that they don't work at all and it pisses me the hell off. I cannot and will not defend mechanics that simply do not work. Anyways, you finish your investigation by finding a hard drive to bring back with you just as the school gets attacked by the Freaks, one of the many criminal factions of Gotham City that you'll be seeing a lot of. After clearing them out, you ride back to the Belfry, and before long you get it up and running, allowing you to gain access to the main meat of the game. Now that I've covered the intro, I want to talk about the characters themselves, as one of the most compelling things about this game is the personal stories of each character that plays out as you progress the game. Each character responding to how Bruce's death affected them, along with their own insecurities. Dick's story is about him struggling to be the leader-like figure while trying not to fall into the same habits as Bruce made, like hiding his injuries or their severity from his allies, or being open and communicative with his team about even the most painful thoughts in his mind. I like it. Being the first Robin and the one of them who spent the most time around Bruce, he arguably has the best understanding of how difficult it can be to work with the Bat and how it can feel like you're trapped in his shadow. That's why he always tries to reassure Tim, leans on Babs, and keeps Jason focused without ever being an authority figure among the team. They are equals, and he makes sure to never stray from that perspective. Tim's story is heavily rooted in his insecurity. Tim had a massive faith in Batman. With him gone, he's afraid, not entirely sure he can measure up to the legacy of the Batman. He even considers to Jason, of all people, the possibility of using a Lazarus pit. Thankfully, Jason talks him down from it, but the fact that he even considered something so drastic just goes to prove how truly lost he feels without Bruce to guide him. He's clinging to everything he can that connects him to his mentor. But by the end of the story, you see him start to slowly step out of his shell and find his own way of being Gotham's savior. This one is so heartwarming for me. He seems so lost and broken in the start. So seeing him grow and blossom into a brand new hero that's all his own is perfect. Barbara's story starts with her father. Montoya mentions how Jim's statue messed with his face and glasses, but Barbara couldn't tell the difference, stating that he looks just like he always did to her. She struggles with this more as she's making a scale model of one of her dad's old cases. Tim mentions how it looks just like the statue, which clearly bothers Barbara. You can tell how worried she is about not remembering her father correctly. People, for some reason, seem to misread this story as nothing more than her trying to always do things by herself. And while that is certainly a major part, this is clearly a deeply personal issue that causes her to break down into tears. And it's not until she opens up to the others that she starts to accept and understand herself. I think the crux of what Barbara's problem is with the statue is that she wants to know she remembers her dad as he was, rather than as the person people saw. She never wants those precious memories to be corrupted or lost. That's why she's so hung up on the statue. But I think what's happening is she is seeing him how she remembered him. The hero that answered every call, that stood for real justice in a city that wanted nothing to do with it. The man who never backed down from intimidation, never once cared a whit for recognition. This one hits home for me because I have a grandmother that died when I was in middle school. Every year, even to this day, when the anniversary of her passing comes around, it's hard. Hard to not remember the fragile woman who was clinging to life. So I always try to remember the kind-hearted woman who never lost the smile from her face. I think it's the same kind of principle for Barbara as it is for me. After Jason talks to her about this subject, the rest of the story does focus on her ability to handle things herself, with Tim reminding her that this isn't a one-hero job. Jason's story is the most unique for fairly obvious reasons. Jason has clear PTSD from being revived by the Lazarus Pit and how it changed him, both physically and emotionally. Even the sight of water building in a canister is enough to freak him out. Not only that, but his anger shows itself a lot. Like, a lot. Thankfully, whenever Babs, Dick, or Tim approach him about it, he's able to reel himself back. They know he doesn't want to cross the blood-red line, but they also know that he can't always see how close he gets to that line. And he knows it too, which is why I think he's always so willing to listen when the others start pulling him back. The conversation he has with Alfred, reminiscing on the past, is heartbreaking to watch. Jason lets his walls down completely for probably the first time in years for him. Men who look like Jason have an image of unshakability, so to see him break down into tears is a sight that gets me every time. And his final scene makes me feel warmer and fuzzier than anything else in this game. They're working on something that harkens back to the first conversation he has in this storyline. But rather than feeling like the outcast that he did, he's every bit part of the process, depending on him, eager to hear his ideas, and most importantly, just appreciating him being there. It's a simple detail, but one that means the world to someone who's used to feeling like they're alone. I know people swear up and down on Jason's being the best of the stories. I definitely see it and understand where they're coming from, but for me, I gotta give the top spot to Babs. Everything about her fears that relate to her dad are so relatable for me that I can't help loving her story most. Before long, you get a message from Harley Quinn, of all people, saying that she has something for Batman that he had her working on for a long while. As a result, you go to Blackgate and fight through the inmates and guards alike to receive a book Harley's made, containing a massive list of people she's profiled. As you're busy retrieving the book while living La Vida Loca, she makes her escape from Blackgate and starts working with the freaks to steal material needed to create a special drug. She makes herself into a new personality called Dr. Q, who is giving it away to the people of Gotham. Before long, the people who took these drugs start going berserk, soccer moms and yoga dads rioting in the streets. You end up tracking her to a hospital, fighting your way through freaks and deranged civilians. When you get to Harley herself, her boss fight is fairly easy until you reach her second phase, where she pulls out her iconic hammer, but now it's charged with electricity, so you gotta watch out for that and avoid her AoE ground pound attack. Once you beat her, you hand her over to Montoya before Batmaning her.
Oh yeah, I got a full desk of open cases, it says. God damn it. You tell anyone about this clown girl, I'll gag you.
After a while, Barbara and Tim find a connection that leads them to the Penguin, who might be willing to expose some secrets. Once he's motivated, he tells them that the people they're looking for are known as the Court of Owls. As all of this is happening, there's also a break-in at Star Labs that, when investigated, we learn that Mr. Freeze has hired the high-tech gang called the Regulators to assist him in taking control of the lab. They went off to snatch as much data as they could, while Freeze made off with as much cryogel as he could carry. Trying to gain leads as to what he could be up to, you head to Quartz Labs in order to find someone that worked with Freeze. Here, you find Freeze's partner frozen to death, but he left an audio log stating that he built a failsafe against Freeze's wishes and stored it away. You get it back and return to the Belfry. And not a moment too soon, because Victor's made his move. Using the cryogel he stole from Star Labs, he's activated an ice storm machine that instantly froze most of Gotham. You fight your way through the regulators and get to Freeze's machine. You plant the failsafe device, but Freeze shows up to fight you. And this is definitely one of the more difficult boss fights. His ice cannon is more accurate than you'd expect, and it piles on the ice status effect quicker than you can manage. You will get frozen solid and open for a direct attack more than once as you fight him. Not only that, but when he leaps up and heads onto the machine itself, he's untouchable for a little bit. But trust me, even if he was, you can't afford to waste time attacking him with ranged weapons, because he's going to use the Ice Storm machine to attack in a wide spread. You need to already be sprinting in the correct direction if you want to avoid getting hit. Later into the fight, you'll also have to dodge an aerial bombardment from Freeze himself. Then, there's his ground pound whenever he moves. Upon contact with the ground, he creates a small damaging field of ice around him, meaning you have to fight from a distance for a few seconds before rushing in with your heavier momentum attacks. It's a tough fight that'll test your patience, but soon enough, you'll beat him and get him shipped off to Blackgate. Now, all that's left is to sabotage the cryotech the regulators have on your next patrol. But the regulators actually bust into Blackgate to get Freeze out. You pursue and now have to face him in a giant multi-legged mech. Don't let the size fool you, though. This is actually a much easier fight than the previous one. Still gotta watch out, but keep hitting the legs whenever you get an opening and he's finished.
You fly too close to the sun, and you'll get burned.
I would rather die knowing what I am than live in a lie.
That would be your cue to leave. The Batrone is on approach to pick you up.
Put me back in my cell if you must. There's nothing left for me here.
If you hate the overworld to the point of not wanting to bother with it, then I got good news, because Lucius contacts the Knights and tells them that he's got something for them. When you go to meet him, they see a new drone that can be used to fast travel once you scan the police drones in each of the different districts of the city, which isn't a difficult task at all. So, if traveling around Gotham it really is that annoying for you, which I don't think it should be, now you can circumvent it for the rest of the game. Speaking of, now's a good time to mention that some crimes are going to be very repetitive in their locale. I don't think I've ever done the organ theft crime in any location other than this one right here, and that does make the game feel a little stale at times. I can admit that this is definitely one of the game's bigger flaws. Speaking of flaws, back in the advertising for this game, the Court was hyped up as the main villain, but you defeat their leader, who I still won't spoil if you don't already know who they are, because it really is that good of a twist, well before the game's final climactic hour starts to set in. You first encounter the Court while investigating the Powers Club. This is when we're introduced to the voice of the Court, who is considered to be their leader. After you get caught, you have to maneuver through easily one of the toughest death traps in the game. You have to be extremely precise with when, where, and how you move. You have to watch every inch of the screen to make sure you're not about to touch any of the fires or blades, because if you do, instant death. It's honestly a really cool puzzle to figure out, and you feel kinda badass once you finally work your way through it. Before too long after that, you encounter your first Talon. The basic variants of Talons are easily the most annoying, as they can only be made vulnerable with a charged ranged attack. Problem is that, for all characters, that's the equivalent of a shotgun shot, meaning close range. And with how fast the Talons are, getting close isn't a good idea. So, you have to try and time it just right before they can hit you with a combo. Soon after that, you'll notice some opportunistic crimes involve a faceless man attacking civilians. Once you beat him, you see him dissolve into clay and you start collecting samples to figure out why and how Clayface is back. And of all the Rogues Gallery villains, I wish we had gotten to explore Clayface's story the most. Last thing he remembers prior to his first appearance later in this quest is getting thrown into a jet turbine a la Syndrome while he was fighting Batman. But that was years ago, and as we know, Batman isn't around anymore. When you confront him, he tells you to send Batman to fight him. You tell him that Batman's dead, and he can't understand that. He refuses to accept that Batman is gone. I'm kinda going all over the place with Clayface's story, but that's because I wanted to take a moment to praise two parts in particular. First, at the beginning of his quest line where you're chasing him, and at the end of the quest line where you're running away from him. Both of these sequences utilizes the Bat Cycle. Remember earlier when I said there was a great test to the Bat Cycle? Well, this is it. In the first section, you're driving through the streets trying to follow a giant glob of clayish goop through the city, making hard turns that require drifting and jumps that you'll only make if you pop a wheelie, and the second section has you racing through an underground sewer system while Clayface chases you as a tsunami wave. You have to drift on every turn to keep enough speed to stay ahead of him, and you have to react fast enough when he shoots tendrils out to try and hit you. They are, without a doubt, the Bat Cycle's greatest moments in this game. As for Clayface himself, honestly, he's not that intimidating. Just stay on top of dodging and you shouldn't have much trouble. And now, with all the side villains out of the way, it's time for you to sneak into a charity fundraiser being held in Bruce's honor, where the player learns the true identity of the voice. Again, I won't say who it is, because I'd rather you play the game and see it for yourself. All I will say is that it's an okay plot twist. Not jaw-dropping, but surprising enough that I was able to appreciate it. The real tension kicks in when the League of Assassins shows up and starts purging the entire building. Court members and guests alike, and suddenly you're surrounded by court security and assassins at the same time. Side note, the assassins are my absolute favorite faction to fight. The standard blade swinging ones immediately disappear into a smoke bomb. You have to wait and watch for them to appear, then you have a split second to start dodging their combo, which will leave them open to be taken down. It's super satisfying to do. And then there's the Cannoneers that, honestly, once you get up close to them, there's kinda nothing they can do, but they are tanky, so there's that. I love fighting these guys because it's so fun to dance around the enemies that attack with such precision. Now the plan is to arrest the voice for the murder of Kirk Langstrom. The Knights have all the evidence they need for a case to be made. They just need a cop that'll trust them to get the intel to. Luckily, there is one. Montoya. She's happy to work with the Knights in order to take the criminals in, both here and in the Rogues Gallery cases. It's super fun to see her working with Batgirl and the others, feeling like a true second generation of the Batman's relationship with Jim, especially since they bring her to the Belfry and reveal their secret identities to her as a show of trust. And it doesn't go unrewarded, as she ultimately helps in handling the arrest of the most powerful man in Gotham, without a second of hesitation. Too bad Talia decided to 86 him before they could finish arresting him. It's at this point you discover that Talia has been playing you the entire time, wanting the court outed so she and her League of Assassins could destroy Gotham as the first step of her conquest. Hunting her down takes you to the abandoned ruins of Arkham Asylum, where you discover why Langstrom was killed, because he was working with the League to turn Talia's assassins into man-bats. As you pursue her further, you come across the remains of the Batcave, and it's so crazy to see such an iconic location be nothing but shattered ruins. You go further down and find a Lazarus pit with Talia standing near it, and she sicks her newest general at you from the pit itself. Bruce Wayne. It's so cool fighting him because he moves and fights in the exact same style as a playable character. He moves as if he's using momentum combos. I absolutely love fighting bosses that have the exact same skill set you do, and Bruce does not disappoint for even a second. After beating him and bringing him back to his senses, you fight Talia herself, and I gotta be honest, I hate this fight. The first phase is just her with her sword and bow. While difficult, you will eventually get a read on her and figure her movements out. Phase 2, however, is when she grabs her spear. And let me tell you, her spear can go shank itself into a pit of Ace Chemicals acids. That thing has a hitbox that's twice the width and 3 times the length of the spear itself. And she's the final boss, so I get that she's supposed to be hard. But the thing is, there's a difference between hard to fight and impossible to dodge. Best strat I can give you is run away from her and take pot shots. Nothing else works consistently. After that, the game's over. I won't say what happens after you beat Talia, because I do want you to go back and experience this game for yourself. I'm just giving you the cliff notes. But I will definitely say you should head back to the Belfry and check out this new picture upon the credits being over. Trust me, you won't regret it. Once you have beaten the game, you unlock New Game Plus, where you get to carry over the gear, mods, and levels from your completed save, while raising the level cap and increasing the difficulty of the enemies. It's a great way for you and your friends to challenge yourselves after having beaten the main game normally. Overall, Gotham Knights, I feel, is a good game. Does it trip over its own feet from time to time? Sure, but that doesn't mean it's a trash game that should be buried beside Suicide Squad. I can comfortably give this game a modest 6.5 out of 10, with the multiplayer experience with friends bumping it up to an 8 1/4. If you like Batman media and want a game where you and your friends can just space out while beating up enemies, then this is the game for you. I hope I've changed some minds about this game, and would love to hear about your adventures with this game in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Check out my buddy Tyler Crux. He does a lot of fun stuff on his channel. He was a big help in getting all of the footage that you have seen throughout this video. We collab all the time. I'll catch you later, nerds.